In this box, I have the main ingredient used in making OSB. This is mulch from my flower bed outside. That's right, OSB is made from wood chips. And well, they probably are a little more processed than that. It is literally just wood chips glued together. I used OSB when I first started remodeling my house for the first portion, but after learning just a little bit about healthy building, I quickly switched to plywood. In this video, I'm going to break down why I hate this stuff and why I will never use it again. Let's get into it. And quick note from future Dave in the video, if you really like the zip system, this video might make you mad at the end. Plywood was invented in the 60s. It hit the market in a mainstream way in the 80s, and by the year 2000, it had surpassed plywood as the main sheathing product used in houses that are built of wood in the United States. Before that, we used plywood from about World War II to 2000 as our main sheathing product. And before that, we had good old boards. OSB stands for Oriented Strand Board. It's literally a bunch of wood chips glued and pressed together. Whereas plywood, on the other hand, is thin, continuous sheets that are then glued and pressed together. And it makes a big difference. Let's get into the three big reasons. Number one, we've got structural. How much force does it take to pull a nail out of OSB versus plywood? Well, I tested that inadvertently right before making this video when I went and ripped this out of the subfloor in my bathroom. OSB takes between 200 and 350 pounds of force to pull the average nail, whereas with plywood, it takes 250 to 400. That's a pretty big increase. That is 10 to 25% more holding strength that plywood has on your nails over OSB. Now, you may think that's not that big of a deal, and many times it's not, but if it's on your roof and a tornado hits, it does start to become a pretty big deal. The next thing is deflection. When I go walking across this thing on my subfloor, how much does it bend downwards in comparison to plywood? Well, it bends more. It bends about 5 to 15% more when it's dry, and then if you get it wet, that can almost double to 15 to 25%. That's a pretty serious increase in the amount of deflection that you get. So that might not affect you so much on the walls, and oftentimes it's not going to be that big of a deal on your roof either because there's not a lot of walking going on up there. But as your subfloor, that deflection over time is going to make for a much bouncier subfloor. The next thing is edge weakness, which does relate to the nail pull. But if you've ever sheathed with this stuff or used it on a subfloor, you know when you're shooting those nails down, especially on the edges, it's way more likely to blow out that side if you're using this OSB instead of plywood. And I'm not a framer, but I've been on enough job sites to know that this stuff is incredibly sensitive to moisture in comparison to plywood. We talked a little bit about how it loses its strength worse than plywood does when it gets wet, but anyone who's been on a job site can just picture that swollen edge that OSB gets when it gets rained on. This makes it weaker. This makes the nails hold worse. And we're going to get way deeper into this further down the list as to reasons why I will never use this again. The next thing we need to talk about is the chemicals in these different products. When it comes to the chemicals found inside of our house, I have this theory that if it's in your house, it eventually will make its way into your body. And I don't care if it's buried in a wall or buried in the subfloor. I think that tiny particles just have a way of working their way into the air. You breathe them in, or they get on your skin, they get on your food, you digest them. And so I care a ton about what chemicals are in the products around me. The sheathing, the subfloor, you know, these are really big pieces of the home. So we need to be especially careful with that here. So let's take a look at the glue that is used in each of these products to see which one is superior. Plywood. We've got phenol formaldehyde. This is the main glue used in it for exterior plywood, which is pretty much all the structural plywood that we're talking about. On the other hand, OSB has usually two types of adhesive in it, one of them being phenol formaldehyde and the other being PEBDI, which I'm going to look at my phone to check after I say this, but I believe that is polymeric methylene diphenyl isocyanate. Yeah, I think I got it right. Anyways, I'm no chemist, all right? But what I do know from my basic research is that I stands for isocyanate. Isocyanate is also the main ingredient in spray foam and a big reason why we don't like it. Isocyanates are linked to respiratory problems specifically and asthma. They also can cause skin problems. And this is also true of formaldehyde, and formaldehyde is a known carcinogen. So at first glance, I don't think there's a massive clear winner here, except for when you look at the percentage of glue found in each of them, all right? Plywood has 1 to 2% of its total weight in glue usually. It can be up to 3%, it's usually 1 to 2. OSB, on the other hand, has 3 to 6% of its weight in glue. So that's anywhere between 2 and 6x the amount of glue in it. So they both got phenol formaldehyde in them. Well, with the amount of glue that OSB contains, it usually has just as much of this as plywood. And then it has this on top of it. Now, they do claim that these are both very stable once they're cured, and that curing happens very quickly. I personally am always skeptical of this sort of thing, all right? Of course, big companies say the chemicals they use in their products are very stable. So I'm sure there's some truth to it, but I remain skeptical. Now, I do need to make a caveat here. Interior plywood is not made with phenol formaldehyde usually. It's usually made with urea formaldehyde, which is the one that really gives formaldehyde its nasty name. It's not stable. So over time, it will continue to off-gas into your house for years. And new periods of off-gassing can be triggered by changes in moisture. You don't want any of this in your home, like absolutely none. So this is going to be found in your sanded plywood, like Home Depot and Lowe's usually. It's also going to be found all throughout the cheap cabinetry and trim sections. So those particle board cabinets, the MDF trim, you want to avoid all that composite junk that's glued together, oftentimes with urea formaldehyde, which is truly bad news. But as long as we're avoiding the interior products and we're just talking about exterior structural, plywood is a clear winner simply because it has way less chemicals in it. The percentage is just way less. But again, this is a very minor reason compared to the last reason. The last and most important reason that I don't want to use OSB is that it is poor at drying out. And I said in the beginning, I might make the zip system lovers mad. Zip system is still OSB at the end of the day, guys. And in my opinion, it has almost no advantage on any of the things that I've talked about here. I do think having that coating on the outside probably makes it to where it's not going to rot as easily when moisture gets into your wall. I can see that, but other than that, all of the other problems remain roughly the same. So its lack of ability to dry is going to be pretty much the same. That green coating on the outside, it is quite permeable. They say it's like 12 to 16 perms. But the OSB inside is actually what matters, so let's get into that. We need to look at the perm ratings of each of them, though, to understand how well they can dry out. And that's really what perm rating measures. How well can that moisture move through? This is measured in 2 different scenarios, just like your house can be in 2 different scenarios. It's measured when it gets pretty wet, wet cup, and it's measured when it gets pretty dry. And I'm not going to try to explain how the actual testing is done, but that's essentially what it's measuring, all right? So wet cup is usually the number you see when you look up the perm rating of things, because they often want to show that they're vapor open, but those wet cup conditions oftentimes only represent if there's a problem in your house. For example, those wet conditions might mean the wood itself is getting up to like 20% relative humidity inside. That would be very wet. You know, we're getting ready to start growing mold in the high teens. So if you've got a power washer and he's blasting your house and it's getting behind the siding, you know, you could start to get your sheathing into wet cup like that. I don't think in at least any area that I've lived in, it's ever wet enough outside without something hitting that siding or being spilled on your subfloor or leaking the roof that you're going to be all the way into wet cup conditions. Hardly ever. And in these conditions, plywood is a 5 to 10 perm rating, whereas OSB is only 2 to 5. So plywood has 2 to 3 times the ability to let water through. You know, it's much more vapor open when it gets wet. And this is pretty similar for when it's dry too. And dry cup doesn't seem like it's that important at first, guys, but I'm telling you, it is so important, all right? Plywood has a 1 to 3. OSB has a 0.5 to 1.8. So we still have a fairly similar ratio. You know, it's 2 to 3 times more vapor open. And dry cup matters because the majority of the year, in most of the United States, you're going to be in dry cup conditions for everything inside of your house, all right? So to give you some perspective, in Michigan, when we're air drying our lumber before it goes in the kiln, it'll get down to about 15% just if you keep it out of the rain. So at 15%, you are in kind of a transition space between wet and dry cup, but you're still not in wet cup conditions, all right? So let's give an example. Like in the winter, it gets cold in a lot of the United States, and the moisture problem that happens where we can get mold is the vapor inside of the house wants to move to the dry air outside. So it starts sneaking through our walls and it starts hitting that cold sheathing. And if that sheathing can't dry well, we can develop a moisture problem which turns into a mold problem inside of our walls. So this dry cup number in many ways is almost more important most of the year than the wet cup number. So both of these products actually work as vapor retarders. OSB in dry conditions usually falls into a class 2 vapor retarder. And the way the system works is the lower the number, the more it blocks moisture. So a class 1 would be like a sheet of plastic, all right? And then a class 2, an example of that would be like the paper on insulation, or like a 1-inch thick piece of that XPS foam board, all right? It's pretty vapor closed. Whereas the plywood, on the other hand, would fall into a class 3 vapor retarder. So when we opt for OSB over plywood, which about 75% of homes in the US today are doing that, we're choosing to bump down an entire vapor retarder class, which we don't want to casually do that. We can have something that is, 2 to 3 times more vapor open. And in most parts of the United States, we dry through the sheathing the entire year. Sometimes we have to dry out in the winter, and sometimes we have to dry in during the summer. And so stopping the moisture here could cause a lot of problems. And so it is not totally stopping it, but we can see the plywood lets it through much better. And to compound on this, OSB absorbs water faster. So even though it dries slower, it absorbs it faster. And the reason OSB just can't dry as well is because of the random orientation of things. On plywood, we're pretty uniform. We cut the tree in the same direction and glued all the sheets, right on top of each other. So all those pores coming through, they're going to have a much better chance of lining up. That's what happens when wood swells. The pores are opening to let the water out. Whereas with plywood, it's random. So the pores can be oriented in any direction. So some of them are going to be oriented out and dry well, but others are going to be oriented in random directions. And maybe moisture gets in and then it really struggles to get out because of that. Also, that glue does not help it dry. And we know it has, as much as 3 times as much glue inside of it as plywood does. It's not even that much money to switch to plywood. Let's just price it out for the average house real quick. So the average house takes about 300 sheets of plywood or OSB. And obviously this is a rough number. It's going to depend on the size of the house. 1/2-inch OSB in the Midwest right now, where I'm from, is $16 a sheet. All right, times 300 sheets, we're at $4,800. All right, we do plywood instead, same thickness. We're at $6,600. Right, so that's an $1,800 difference. Now, there are going to be some other cost differences because, for example, your subfloor is not going to be 1/2-inch. All right, it's going to be 3/4. It's going to be tongue and groove. So I think it will be a little bit more than this. But I think we could say for the average American house, for $4,000, we could probably switch to plywood, and we could just have so much more of a durable house. And I'm going to hit you with one crazy idea. What was wrong with the wood planks? These things are more permeable than plywood too. And I think we ought to think about using regular wood way more often. If you're interested in building a healthier house, I made a free guide where I go over a bunch of these different alternative ways of building and these alternative materials, and we compare them on cost, we compare them on how likely they are to cause mold, what chemicals are in them. It's in the link down below. Go in the description, click it, and get that guide. Thanks for watching, guys, and let me know what you think down in the comments.